Hey there and welcome to the channel. You're watching The Light in My Library. Today we're going to be discussing The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson, Book 2 in the Mistborn saga. Typically, second books and films in trilogies are more highly regarded than the first or the last one. However, in this circumstance, Brandon Sanderson goes against the mold. The Well of Ascension is generally considered to be the worst of the original 3 books. However, it is actually my personal favorite. It is actually my favorite book in the original Mistborn trilogy. It is, in general, a lot more ponderous and philosophical than the first book. However, I like those things in a book, and I really appreciate and enjoy a lot of what Brandon Sanderson has to say in this book about relationships, about trust, about leadership and duty, and I find a lot of it to be very poignant and it had a massive impact on me when I was younger and reading these books for the first time. Did I do the spoiler warning? I think I forgot to say spoiler warning again. So this book takes place about a year after the end of the last book. After the successful overthrow of the Lord Ruler, Elend Venture has been installed as monarch of Luthadel and has instituted a constitutional monarchy. Parliamentary monarchy? I'm not sure. It's one of the two, and it doesn't really matter which one. I think it's a parliamentary monarchy. However, due to his overwhelming desire to see everyone placated and happy, he has failed to maintain any level of authority or power within this system, and it has caused Luthadel to fall into a bit of a recession. Vin and Elend are in a relationship, however, Vin has repeatedly turned down Elend's proposals of marriage. In the greater vacuum caused by the death of the Lord Ruler, several other kingdoms have popped up, and all of them are gunning for Luthadel, where they believe the Lord Ruler's stash of adium is being kept in secret. Not long after our story begins, Luthadel is placed under siege by not one, not two, but 3 foreign monarchs. So, a couple highlights from the book. This book actually has what is my favorite scene by far in any Mistborn book, and it is one that I got the pleasure of experiencing for the first time, like the first 6 times I read the book, because I kept forgetting that it existed, and that is when the Parliament is getting attacked by Ket's agents, and Vin uses the beryllium-fueled pewter to explode a guy's head with her own head. It's just such a violent and graphic and gory scene that is kind of like jaw-dropping. And I swear, the first 6 times I read the book, I forgot that it was in there, and it is by far one of my favorite scenes in all of Mistborn, especially with Elend's reaction to it, and yeah, I just really enjoy that scene. This book also has one of my favorite quotes of the entire Mistborn saga, aside from the obvious, "There's always another secret." The Lock and Key monologue by Sazed is hands down one of my favorite little pieces of prose that Brandon Sanderson has ever written. A couple other quick things I want to touch on in this segment of the video. So we have Elend learning to become king, being trained by Twindle. This is one of my favorite things. One of the things that I look forward to the most on rereads. This book also is when I feel like Vin becomes just insanely powerful, and it's mostly due to the beryllium burning, but even still, just the feats that she accomplishes in this book are insane. Taking out all of Ket's army in a single go by herself, and then managing to counter adium without having adium, like, jaw-dropping scene the first time I read it. Speaking of which, Zane is both one of my most and least favorite parts of this book. I feel like he comes off very edgelord and melodramatic, but there is just some charm to him as a character that I really enjoy and appreciate. And also, I remember the first time I read the book, I thought he was crazy, just like he thinks he's crazy. And then in his death scene, when God says to him, the funny thing is, you were never crazy. Like, my jaw hit the floor. I didn't have the context, of course, at this point in the series to understand what was going on, but I believed that voice when it said it, because, I mean, it doesn't fit with the rest of the psychosis that he's experienced. And I was like, wait. So I do think that Zane and the voice are very good foreshadowing for the last book. On to the review. I'm going to give this book an 8 out of 10 for prose. I do think that the prose in this book are much improved over the prose in the previous book. Like, a significant improvement. There is nowhere near as much clunky dialogue. I mean, like I said in the last video, the scene in the lair stands out like a sore thumb of just clunky writing, and nothing like that sticks out to me in this book. There are a few moments here and there, but nowhere near as bad. Again, not that the last book was bad, I just, comparatively, it's not quite as good. I'm going to give this book an 8 out of 10 for the characters. The characters are good, and I think especially the development is phenomenal for Vin and Elend in this book. And Zane, like I mentioned, love him and hate him. However, it is neither the strong introduction of the first book that we get with these characters, where they make an impression in the first book, nor is it the character highs of the third book, where, things happen. However, I do want to say, aside from Zane, there are several other characters introduced in this book that are some of my favorite characters in the entire series. Twindle comes to mind. She is phenomenal. Ket and Ket's daughter, Aludra, I want to say. It's been a while since I've read the book, but I want to say it's Aludra. And the death of Ellen's friend when he beheads his friend Jakes is one of my favorite scenes in the whole series as well. I'm going to give this book a 7 out of 10 for plot. I think Brandon Sanderson does a phenomenal job of maintaining tension throughout this book. Just the looming threat of the three armies surrounding Luthadel really keeps the pressure on at all times. Not to mention the mystery that's going on in the background about what's up with Marsh and just some other things that are floating around. The Hero of Ages the concept is introduced in this book. I think obviously there's the journal entries in the first book, but other than that, the Hero of Ages is just a thing of the past, not really considered a thing of the present. So some solid mysteries going on, some solid tension. However, there are a couple things in the plot of this one that I think fall a little bit flat. Specifically, Ket moving into the city and setting up inside the keep does seem just a little made up to me. I mean, obviously everything in this book is made up, but it just doesn't land the way that I think it should. I mean, its payoff is definitely amazing. I love the dinner scene. However, just the concept of him moving into an enemy city, it is the ballsy kind of thing that Ket would do. I'm just not sure it's believable. The other thing that really stands out to me is Ellen's government system. I get that he's an idealist. I get that he's implementing these things without any real evidence that they'll work. It just seems kind of obvious to me that the structure that he set up has some serious flaws. And granted, that's kind of the point of it in the narrative. It's just hard to believe that people let him do it. However, I do really enjoy the political intrigue and the squabbling for power that is created by this parliamentary system. I really enjoy when I think Penrod is elected king. That's a twist that is not expected in the series, so I do enjoy that. I'm going to give this book a 9 out of 10 overall. Again, I want to point out that the category ratings factor into the overall rating in no way, shape, or form. It's just what I feel like highlighting as either particularly good or particularly bad in a book. Whatever I find relevant about that book is what I'm going to pull out to make categories for, but the overall rating is not affected by those category scores. The overall rating is simply a reflection of how I like the book. When I think of the book, this is how I think of it. This is a longtime favorite of mine, and in my opinion, criminally underrated in this series. It is way more atmospheric than book one. It is way more tense, and I feel like reading The Well of Ascension in some ways, I mean, it's not grimdark by any means, but in some ways it is a drudge through weariness. Not through grime or dirt or anything, just weariness is the overwhelming feeling of the book, and I feel like it comes off very well when reading it. Alright, so that does it for my review of The Well of Ascension, Book 2 by Brandon Sanderson. Keep an eye out. My Book 3 review will be coming very soon. I'm also working on a review for The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie. I read that earlier this year, sometime in January. As well as I'm working on reviews for Stormfront and for The Calculating Stars by Jim Butcher and Mary Robinette Kowal. So keep an eye out for those. They are coming soon. In addition to that, I also play some classic games like Fable and Roller Coaster Tycoon, things like that, over on my Twitch channel, The Light in My Man Cave, if you want to check that out. If you want to, please consider giving this video a like and subscribing, leave a comment down below. All of those things really help out the growth of this channel, and I really appreciate them. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.